the recording goes first, and then we'll be live streaming. And then I also want to let you know, mostly to the speakers, because all of our speakers are, of course, from the league. And so we're catching you up on some big projects and then some smaller committee reports. So I want to let all the people who are going to talk know that we have an hour and a half worth of talking, and that doesn't count questions. So Lisa, whose camera's not working, but who we have several tech co-hosts I want to give a shout out to. The first one is Judy Ann Goldman, who's running our the tech behind the scenes and monitoring Facebook and taking care of all that. Thank you so much, Judy Ann, because I have successfully done Facebook once. So thank you for that. And then Lisa Albright, who is also helping us let people in and mute people if they forget to mute themselves. And she will be our timer. And so Lisa will be watching the clock. And if anybody runs over their allotted minutes, she's going to send me a text with lots of exclamation marks, and I'm going to have to jump in and wave a little and interrupt you. So forgive us for that, but we have to, because we have a whole lot of information to get through. So before we get to that information, I want to say hello and welcome to all of our new members. If this is your first time here, can you wave for us? Or if you're visiting from another league, I know we may have some members from a members at large group in St. Joe. Do we have those members? If you want to wave, if you are here from the up north mall, I don't see anybody. Okay, well, I want to welcome all the new people. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a great first meeting because you get to hear about all the work that we're doing. And if you want to jump in and join any of this work, you'll know exactly who to contact. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Judy Ann, who is going to talk about what's going on with social media. And Judy Ann, your time starts now.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, I really just wanted to have our monthly reminder about connecting to the league's social media channels. And before I started navigating around, I had everything up and ready to post.
Let me let you share screen. Sorry.
So now it's no need to share screen.
Oh, all right.
I was just going to put it in the chat, the different links so that everybody has them. Please copy them. The different ways that you can promote the league and support voting and democracy is to follow us on social media, see what's happening, tell your friends about it. And it's whatever platform you're on. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. Right now, in fact, if you want to go to your account and on whichever platform, and boy, that's a jumble of stuff right there, the way it posted. But you'll see the links there. Sorry for the mashup. And look for League of Women Voters. On most platforms, we are LWVKC. And if you see a post there, please like it, share it, maybe tag someone. That means putting the little @ sign and typing their name when it pops up. It should be active to indicate that they'll be tagged. And don't worry if that's confusing. Just liking a post. If you want to comment on it, that's great. It all helps our algorithm. It all helps us get our presence out there more. And if you do that on a daily basis or a weekly basis or every few days, go to if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, if you're on YouTube, whatever platform you're on, Instagram, share, tag like, comment. Yes. And thank you so much. That is my word for the week.
Yep, I just did one just now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy Ann. Yeah, the more we communicate with a ton of people on social media, so the more active we are, the more reach we have. So thank you so much, Judy Ann. And that was 3 minutes. So you did a nice job of setting the tone. Next we have membership. Stacy Webb is jumping in, I think, for membership on Laura Marcus Mountjoy's behalf. We aren't hearing you, Stacy. I don't think you're muted, but we are not hearing you. Okay. Do you want to skip this? Skip this one? Okay. All right. We will skip membership and speakers bureau.
And
yes.
later on, if she can't get on, I can say something about membership.
Okay. Stacy, do you want Donna to go ahead and talk about membership? Can you type us a chat? Sending an email to me to share. Okay, do you want to send that to Donna so she could share? Okay, so Donna, maybe a little bit later you can share the email. Okay,
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Becky. Where are you? We are, all right, if you'll unmute, I'll spotlight you.
Sorry.
All right, if you'll unmute, I'll spotlight you.
I'm decreasing the volume on my phone. Okay. Unmute myself. Wow, I did it twice. I just want to say I've been out of state for a few days of vacation, and so I am a little bit behind. There has been a major statewide meeting of league groups, and there's kind of a loose strategy in place for how we're dealing with House Bill 1878. The Secretary of State has informed the league that anybody who expects to register more than 10 voters in one election cycle, which is 2 years, is going to have to register with the Secretary of State's office. In order to do that, you fill out a form. You can email it to them, but they will not recognize that they've received it, and you will have to call up the Secretary of State's office and make sure that they did. And
I'm going to interrupt. I'm sorry, Becky.
Okay, go ahead.
That's one thing I didn't tell you. They will email a
Oh, they will.
confirmation.
Oh,
that's
thank
new
Lord.
that we learned yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, see, Anne and I caught up some, but not on everything. But anyway, so what I want to say is anyone who's interested in voter registration, we're going to be contacting you and helping you with a form. And the ultimate strategy is for all these leagues to get together and present a pile of voter solicitation applications to the Secretary of State in person. And we are going to, unfortunately, because of the new law about absentee voting and voter ID, those kind of combined, are going to make it very difficult for someone like college students who frequently change address to vote where they're living in Missouri. So we're going to be changing the basic advice that we have been putting out for years, which is register where you live, vote where you live. It's much easier. And this is especially something that we tell college students and younger people, and they do move a lot. So it's a different address every year. And this is extremely, it's kind of devastating to me because college registrations are one of the most fun things we do. And those are the two main things that I remember about my conversation with Anne yesterday, because I was kind of in the middle of a lot of exciting things yesterday. So I'm going to turn it over to Anne to finish up the lecture. And also, please go to the website and volunteer for the New Citizens ceremony at the K next Friday in the morning, if you can do it. I think the actual activity will be an hour or so, but if you get there right at 10:30, you get to witness the ceremony itself. And it's a really wonderful thing. And it really reinforces the importance of registering to vote and the status of being a US citizen and how important it is to so many of our residents in the United States. Thank you, Anne. Take it from here.
Well, and I just want to add about the new citizen, that it's going to be a huge event, and this is one of the last events that you'll be able to do without training. Because of all the new laws, we've got to get much more serious about training. And so starting August 28th, our voter registration volunteers will have to go through a training, and we will have to have collected your voter registration solicitor's form before you can go out and do any voter registration. So this is the last time you can kind of go and just do it without training. So I encourage you to go and do it, because 500 is a lot of people and they all come out at once. And so, yes, as Becky said, it doesn't take very long because everybody's, because everybody comes out all at once, but we need a ton of people because we hate to miss anybody as they go by. The only other thing I wanted to say about that was that we plan to walk those voter registration solicitation forms into the Secretary of State's office on September 7th, which is a Wednesday at 1:30. Let me double check my calendar. I don't want to give you the wrong date. One shot to tell you the right information. And we encourage everyone to join us at the Secretary of State's office. It is Wednesday at 1:30. We will invite the media to come and cover that. We want to make a big deal out of it, out of the fact that the law has changed, and not only are they making us jump through these hoops, but also to raise awareness of how the laws have changed for individuals so that they can get the information that they need. So please join us. We will put volunteer opportunities. We'll put this on the website so that you can sign up and say you're going, and we can arrange for carpools. So we'll have a spot for drivers and a spot for riders. And we'll just go down, turn in our forms, come right back up. So I want to encourage everybody to put that on your calendar. I see a couple of hands up, so I will take questions on, well, Becky probably, but Donna and Teddy. Donna first.
I just clarification, do we meet in a certain place at the stadium when we come? Do we go in a certain
Good
gate?
question.
Do we go into a certain area, or are we in the parking lot?
Right.
And then the other question, what about the September 1st training? That's the state webinar on House Bill.
Yeah, that's going to be just for leaders, because I don't want to make our registration volunteers go to 2 trainings, and they'll have to go get training, which will be based in part on the state training that the leaders are doing on the 1st. But we'll also incorporate more general voter registration, best practices and how you fill out the card. And we're not going to cover that kind of stuff on the 1st. So I know that the state has encouraged everyone to come. You certainly may come. There is a statewide training on September 1st, but if you do come, and they'll be talking about the law in some details, but do know if you do go to that training and you want to register voters, you'll be going to another training as well,
Yeah,
that will largely cover what we cover on the 1st. So I don't want to publicize it within our league, except with the leaders. But thank you for asking, because there was a email that went out from the state. And then before I take the next two questions, I want to also point out that Becky put in the chat some details about where to park and where to find everybody. So thank you. Teddy?
Yeah, I just have a question. I've read through the bill, but have they even really defined what registration is? Or, I mean, because a lot of that, like when we just do postcards, we tell them, well, technically you're not really registered until you show up at the poll, you show your ID. And I know I also work as an e-judge, and I know that that is correct, that, you know, they're not technically considered registered. Is just telling them to, hey, go to the Secretary of State, Missouri Secretary of State website. You can enroll that, or you can register that way. Is that considered registration? I mean, have they defined what it means, or does it mean if you're just standing there asking people if they're registered, is that what they're defining as 10 people? I'm just curious because I never.
Yeah, of course, that's a great question. And I will tell you, we'll answer this question, but if we've got other questions about HB 1878, actually Greg's going to talk about that a little bit more later.
Okay.
And he's got more details.
Okay.
But I think the short answer to that is, Greg, do you have a short answer to that particular question? It's yes, right? That it's all considered registration, basically, right?
Well, okay, so the language, bear with me, the language that's in the law talks about soliciting voter registration, okay? And so, and there's nothing else in the bill that describes that. So in the meeting that Marilyn McLeod, who is the president of the League of Women Voters Missouri, had with the Secretary of State, she asked the Secretary of State to define what solicitation is. And that definition is, if you have, let's take that postcard, and you hand that postcard to a voter, and they fill it out, and then you take it back, and you bring it back to an election authority, that is considered solicitation. If you hand the postcard to somebody, and they say, okay, I'm going to take this home, filled out, am I going to mail it? And you don't take it back, that is not considered solicitation. Okay, so that is the information that we've got. Now, the guidance and the simplicity, the simple message is, if you are going to be involved in voter registration, you must register with the Secretary of State. In other words, that's the directive of the League of Women Voters Kansas City, correct, Ann? And that way, it's all simple. We don't need to go into what I just explained about defining what solicitation is and what it isn't. Same thing goes for absentee ballots, that whole notion of solicitation. But let's go back to the short answer. If you're going to be doing voter registration, we should all register with the Secretary of State.
Yep. In fact, I would say well, if you're doing it under the banner of the league, you will have to register. Yep. Evelyn, I see your hand. Does it have to do it? I think if it has to do with HB 1878, I may ask that we push it to the end when Greg talks about that. Okay, great. Thank you. Next, we'd like to hear from Mary Lindsay, not Lindsay, Mary Lindsay about legislative action. Oh, you're on mute, Mary. You're still on mute.
Keep pushing buttons.
There you go. Nope.
Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
And that's going to come right directly out of my time, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
Oop, and then I just muted you. Oh, and I accidentally muted you. I'm sorry. Somebody else hopped up in front of you on the list.
Am I?
You're good.
Okay. All right. Well, yes, I'm going to be talking about the Legislative Action Committee. And I want to just give a reminder or maybe new information to new voters, to new members of the League, that the League of Women Voters never endorses political candidates or parties, but we do support and oppose issues. And that's clearly a big part of what we do. The primary work of the Legislative Action Committee is to review bills and to urge legislators to support or oppose certain bills according to the positions of the League of Women Voters. Before this year, our league didn't really have the personnel to seriously tackle something as complicated as legislative action in a big way. So this year in January, we recruited a subcommittee working group, which really did get to work and devise a system with clearly defined roles and tasks. The main role that we need a lot of people for is to be bill trackers. These are volunteers who identify bills on topics of interest to them, such as voting rights, reproductive rights, gun safety, environmental issues, and many others. But so they choose their topic, so to speak, and then select some bills, or at least a bill, to follow as the bills move through the legislative process. When a bill has been assigned to a committee and is scheduled for a hearing, that is one of our big times for action. Excuse me. Or when a bill is up for a floor vote is another time. Anyway, those kinds of points. A tracker will notify the 3-member turnaround team, which is the other part of this committee, about the action that needs to be taken, what's happening, and the need for action. And I want to mention that Anne set up a couple of forms that are on the lwvkc.org website that really made this much more manageable. Then the turnaround team, I won't go into detail, but the turnaround team will write up a call to action and then get that sent to the whole league membership. But these are times calling for action for our members to take, and ourselves. The primary purpose of the Legislative Action Committee is to amplify the voices of our membership by having many of us express our opinions about legislation directly to legislators. In the fall, this coming fall, we will be having trainings so that people who are interested in this can really learn what's involved. It is a manageable thing because I want to remind you all that we did it on the fly in January. The session was already going and we were figuring out what to do, and we essentially came up with a process that does work, though I'm sure it'll be refined as the years go by. Anyway, so our hope is that when the 2023 session begins in January, that we'll have lots of members trained and ready to work, and that in fact we already can start working in December because there will be pre-filed bills that come in, so we can start divvying them up and have ones that are going to really be especially troublesome, get them followed. There currently are 36 members on the website that are on the committee, on this committee. We'd love to have more because really it's better to have a lot of trackers, each following a few bills, than just a few trackers, each trying to follow a lot of bills. So that would be the ideal way for this to go. But wait, there's more, because that is the primary function of the Legislative Action Committee. But also, we've expanded the role following the US Supreme Court rulings that came down in June that heightened concern about women's reproductive rights and guns, among others, but those most especially. The League of Women, the US League, has strong messaging on both of those topics, guns and abortion. And that frees us up to be able to rally around those kinds of things. So I am requesting that everybody, whether you're on the committee or not, if you know about events such as rallies, marches, protests, educational events, any of those kind of things related to guns or reproductive rights, please contact me, or, and Ann, I'll say also if they can contact you, though I didn't ask you about that.
Sure.
And I do want to say also that for the record, only Ann, as our president, can speak for our league, but we all can speak for ourselves without hiding our affiliation to the league. And that is because on things that the league, the US League, and therefore our league, take positions on, then we are free to do that, making it, even if it's clear, like we're wearing a t-shirt or whatever.
Yep.
Let's
I
see.
got about 1 minute left.
And again,
1 minute left.
That thing about being nonpartisan, and when you're speaking for us, oh yeah, we cannot be partisan in our comments. And I think that's everything.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary. I want to encourage you to join that committee if you can. It's a good one because you get to see the work that you did go out to the members. You get to really see that happen in short order. So it's very satisfying to see your fellow members acting on the work that you did. Thank you, Mary. Next, we want to talk about voter guide. Peg. Where is Peg?
I'm right here.
There you are.
Okay, I'm just going to give a really quick recap on the August election. And we had a total of 162 candidates. We had emails, which was what we consider really a success. We had 153 emails, which is 94% out of the candidates. However, responding, those candidates that we sent emails to were only 74 or 48%. So we continue to try to get the candidates to respond by sending them emails, making follow-up phone calls. Because one thing is that when you send mass emails, and we try to do them by races, a lot of times it might go to spam. So you have to maybe send individual emails. We do have phone numbers. We follow up with them. And of course, they want to do everything at the last minute. And so we get lots of emails over the weekend before the election. Hey, I can't get into my Vote 411 to put my information in. So overall, we were pleased with how many emails we got and the results that we do for that. Now about the November 8th election, this will be one of the times that we will be doing a printed voter's guide in addition to the Vote 411. And we're going to have 12,000 voter guides printed to send to partners, community agencies, and that's when we will need help with distributing guides once they come in. We expect, as we told, I think, some of the leadership the other day, Pat and I had a conference call with Ann Sappington, who does the LWV St. Louis and the Missouri stuff. And because we do our local elections, they do the statewide races. We have to depend on them to when we get our information to put in our guide and when we can go live. And so Pat and I met right after the August election and came up with our schedule as to when we thought we were going to go live. But after talking to Ann, they have to work with the Post Dispatch, who prints their voter guide and does a lot of the formatting for them. They're not going to be able to be ready until October the 11th would be the earliest. The latest date to go live will be October 17th. So we will be monitoring and in close communications with them mid to late September to see if we can get that information any earlier. Pat has already talked with the printer, and this is a new printer because the Star doesn't do any printing anymore. And we are going to have our format of our voter guide will be the Telegraph. So I don't know if anybody like in the South Kansas City, Martin City area, if you see around town, it's called I think it's called the Telegraph. It is printed up in St. Joe. And so after talking with different organizations, we got approval from the board several months ago to move forward with them printing the guide for us. And then they will deliver them to Pat's house. And that's where we will get the guides so that we can do distribution. We've always had great success with members saying, hey, I'll sign up to take 200 guides, or I'll take the ones to the libraries. And so we have a distribution channel spreadsheet that we will be putting out as time gets closer if people want to sign up and help do those distributions. We will, let's see, the guide is going to cost $2,700 to print those 12,000 copies. And one thing that the league does struggle with is fundraising. So we will be putting out a plea for individuals that, or this is my plea, I guess, for individuals that know of like-minded organizations, even unlike-minded organizations who want to see a printed guide. Their name will be put in the guide as to their contribution towards the printing of the guide, to make a donation for specifically that. We could always use them in the future. But if you know of any organization or individual that would like to make a contribution to the league to get that voter's guide printed, please send an email to vote411@lwvkc.org. Pat and I check that regularly, and we, although we haven't heard from the fundraising group if they're going to be doing anything, we have a list of people that have donated in the past. We'll probably put out a quick letter to those organizations asking them if they would like to participate again. People get I'm going to say they get their name in the voter guide for any contribution over $100. Also another way that members can help if they don't feel that they have the money to make a donation to the voter guide, the people that do the distribution, they drive all over town using their own gas. If anybody would like to get a gift card from Quick Trip. That's probably one of the biggest gas stations around town that people can use. If you're willing to do that, buy a $20 gift card, $10 gift card that we might be able to pass out to the people that are going to be doing those delivery of guides. Any that we might have left over, we'll pass on to the voter registration people that they might be able to use those as well. And then the last plea that we always have is if anyone is interested in working on the tech side of Vote 411, Pat and I would always love to have a another hand to work on the tech side. So it does require skills of Excel, entering information into databases, taking training with the Vote 411 people, who are, by the way, fabulous people to work with in DC. Well, they're not even in DC. I think Megan works out of Colorado now, but they are fabulous to work with and help us wherever they can. So Pat and I always look for some. I know Pat and I have said that we were going to retire after last general election. And so, of course, we are looking to have someone that might want to take our places in the future. But we won't abandon if anybody says, hey, I want to join, or I am interested, but I don't know what it's all about. Again, a quick email to vote411@lwvkc.org. We would certainly be willing to work with you on any of the tech side. We have a great little committee, but as all committees, some people say, oh, I just want to work on calling candidates to get them to join. I want to do this part of it. I would like to do this part of it. And we take any and all people on that. And we have a good committee that likes to do that. We're always looking for good tech people. So I think that's all I have to report. Unless, Pat, I've missed something. I'll turn my time back over, Ann.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's another satisfying committee where you get to see your work in print and out there in the world. So thank you very much, Peg. Yeah, yay, Peg and Pat. Okay, Rita, I'm going to go to you next.
Okay, so I am the treasurer for the league, and I have a couple of points that I just wanted to hit. I would like to thank everyone who is a member, because clearly we do get an influx of money from our membership fee. But I also wanted to clarify that your membership fee also supports the state office, and it also supports the US, the national office. So out of the $70, we get 18. That may change in the future. We're not sure how, but as of right now, we get $18 out of that 70. So this year, I would also like to thank all of the people who made donations above and beyond the $70, because we brought in we netted about $5,600 this year, which is good because, as Pat just demonstrated, we have additional expenses this year with the Vote 411 guide. It's going to cost us a little bit more money. It's going to be a little bit bigger though, and we felt it was worth it. So that's one of the areas that's one of our biggest expenses. And we want to be able to cover it. I also wanted to piggyback on what Peg said. If you hit the donate button on the website, there is a place for you to donate specifically to Vote 411. So you can make your donation through that process as well. And also then the other expenses that we incur, especially over the last couple of years, are technology. Our technology does become more and more expensive. And one of the other things that we've invested in are interns. So our interns, especially for social media, receive a $500 stipend for a semester. So that's another expense that we've incurred. But again, we felt that this was a great way to not only publicize the league by giving somebody who is in school a chance to understand what we're doing. It's a population that we need to invigorate about what we do and to educate and to bring them on board. So that's another. Voter registration. Again, Becky needs supplies, and I will be the first person to say that Becky is great at bringing money in through grants that are processed through the state and the national office. But we would love to give her more money and just say, buy another tent so that you're out of the sun if you're registering voters, or buy some more brochures to hand out to people so they learn a little bit more about us, even if they don't register with us, or a cheat sheet on how to register that they can spread around to their friends. We haven't been able to do that. I'm sure Becky would love to, but we don't. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is our Get Out the Vote. Get Out the Vote is right currently without a chair. It needs a chair. We really need to get somebody who can get out the vote, especially this year, and especially on major election years, which is every other year, basically. We need to get people to get out the vote. And I'm sure the Legislative Action Committee would also like to see more activity, excuse me, in Get Out the Vote each year that there is major legislation that we really have an opinion on. So all of those things take money. We don't have any paid staff at all. And we also have been talking on the board about starting in-person meetings again. We don't have a facility. We need to pay for that facility. It's at least $300 from all of the places that we've looked at, plus any kind of supplies that we want to bring in, whether it's coffee, whether it's whatever. So these are all expenses that have increased over the course of the last couple of years. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that as I give my pitch for a fundraising chair. We have not had a fundraising chair in the league in years. And I am going to send out a plea to the fundraising members. There's a group of members there, but they have no chair, so nothing can be done. We really, really need a fundraising chair, especially coming up into fundraising season for nonprofits, which is the fall through the end of the year. It's a really big time to ask for donations, not only just from individuals, but from corporations, small businesses, etc. But we need somebody to spearhead that effort. As treasurer, I cannot do it. It's a conflict. I feel it's a conflict of interest. I'm not going to fundraise and be the treasurer. There's just too many family ties there. So that's not going to work. So I'm more than happy to help whoever wants to take that on. You can do as much or as little as you'd like. And I know that there are other members on the board and within our membership who would be happy to help with that as well. But we just need somebody to chair those efforts and decide what to do. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, treasurer@lwvkc.org. I'm happy to answer them. And if you have an extra $5, send it our way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rita. And Rita mentioned the Get Out the Vote committee is looking for a chair. We're having a meeting on Monday, this Monday, 15th at 7 o'clock. And it's anybody who's interested in Get Out the Vote in that committee. If you're interested in just being on that committee, we're looking for a chairperson at that meeting. So it may be a really short meeting because the answer may be nobody's interested, and we'll say, all right, well, we'll try it again some other time. Or it might be a really short meeting because somebody says, I'll do it, and we'll meet again next week. So please come if you have any interest in Get Out the Vote. That's just so very important, as is fundraising. Thank you very much, Rita, for talking about that. Rita, you have your hand up. Did you have one more thing?
Yeah, I had one more thing that I wanted to mention. I'm also nominating chair for this coming year. And I would like to ask if anybody has any interest in being either on the nominating committee for board members and or being a board member, to please get in touch with me. Our efforts will really not start until probably October. The board members our slate for nominations will go to the board of directors sometime in February, and then will be voted on by the membership in May. So we don't start our efforts until about October. But if you have any interest whatsoever, please get in touch with me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, last we have Donna. And Donna, we are exactly 5 minutes behind. So the pressure is on you to stay at 5 minutes, please.
Okay, I will talk fast. I am coordinator of the Observer Corps, and the Observer Corps also handles election protection. I want to start right now recruiting league members to do poll monitoring for the November election, because with the new law that we're going to be talking about, we know there are going to be questions. You will be trained. We do try to serve the urban center where there's usually more difficulties in voting first, but you also are allowed to serve your local neighborhood election thing. But please, let's try to do the urban core first. The training and all will be coming up, and we will be influenced by what lawsuits are initiated, what injunctions happen. But the Observer Corps will do fine poll monitoring. We had 7 or 8 people do poll monitoring in the primary. In 2020, we had 30 people. And so I'd like to return to that level of participation. The new sign up does not inform me of who is doing this. So I am adding a little plea that you would let me know so I can assist in some ways, like by knowing your hours and et cetera. So maybe you can get a snack or such. So election protection is a very important upcoming event. It's a one day. You can sign up for 2 hours, or you can sign up for all day, or for you are in control of that. The Observer Corps is completed its first year of reactivation, and we are observing government entities and being sure that they follow the Sunshine Law. It also gives us a heads up on whether there's some league action that should be taken. It also develops relationships. We have all of the election boards covered. We have some city councils covered, and all. We do not have the school board covered. Right now, we're not getting our TIF, tax increment financing commission isn't covered. The Climate Protection Steering Committee would be a nice one to cover, since we're so important. So we've had some people. We know you sign up and then life gets in the way of observing these meetings, but a lot of times they're recorded and you can go back and observe it. You can get a partner to substitute. Please, this is interesting stuff. I know you all are political junkies because you're in the League of Women Voters, but please go and sign up. We meet as a committee by Zoom on the second Thursday of the month at noon. So hopefully you will. Do you want me, I will end there. Do you want me to do the membership committee?
Yes, please.
We currently have 257 members, an increase of 29 members over the last 2 months, 50 households, 192 individuals, 5 lifetime, and 6 students, as well as our new categories of champion, 2 champion members and 2 mentors. Our new membership fee option inspired 4 of our members, Pat and Dave Goodwin, mentor members, President Ann Calvert and husband Carl Bettis champion members. We have had 49 new members join from January 22 to August 10th of 22, an average of 1.7 members every week in 21. We had 50 new members join for the whole year, so we're on track to exceed that in 22. We do get some members to renew when we contact them. So I put in a plug. It's always important to keep members so we don't have to keep replacing. So please renew. We have a new member orientation on July 7th and with 15 new members that have joined. And our next orientation is September 1st. And we encourage any new members to sign up at lwvkc.org and join us. It's a Zoom meeting from 5 to 6 on Thursday, September 1st. Laura also added the book club, currently has 36 members, an increase of 5 from last month. We have reviewers for all the titles for 22. Laura gets these book bags and puts them on her porch where we can pick them up and have the title for the month to read. And there's one there currently. We're doing How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accent on August 18th via Zoom with where we discuss it. And the DEI committee joined us at our last one on Americana. And so that's from Laura for membership. And I don't know whether Stacy's report needs to be read.
Donna, how many total members are there right now? 292?
Pardon me, 257.
Okay.
Pardon me. Oh, shut up, I'm coughing.
Okay. Well, if you'd like to read Stacy's, if not, we can come back to you if you need it.
I'll just say, since Stacy's last update, they have done a couple of presentations in May, which was at John Knox Village, invited by our own Carolyn Arnold. Greg joined them, and you know, COVID has stopped us. We've been doing that pretty regularly, but COVID has slowed down all of the in-person presentations. And so they will be working on things with the voter ed committee. She says, thanks to tutor Terry Lane, we're getting a lot of back end things addressed. So we'll be up and running soon. Strong.
All right, thank you, Donna. You are off the hook now. Thank you. Sorry. And Michael had a question about the Get Out the Vote committee meeting on Monday. Yes, it is via Zoom. Thank you for asking, because I forgot to tell you that. And so Judy Ann has kindly put the link in the chat. And I did send an email to the committee, but I may have neglected to get it listed on the website. So I would not be surprised if Pat Goodwin had it up there by the time we're done with our meeting, because she's just that efficient. So thank you very much for that question. All right. And thank you. We are, pretty darn close to being on time. So good job, you guys. And for the last big chunk of our meeting, Greg is going to tell us about both the election integrity project. Am I right about that? And then also, he's just going to tell us about all kinds of stuff. So I'll just let him take it away.
All right, great. Can everybody hear me? Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right, great, fantastic. So I think I've got 40 minutes budgeted. I'm going to do ballot integrity in 20, Bill 1878 in 10, and voter education in 10. And I intend to speak for only about half that time. So there's going to be lots of time for question and answer. And how about if we come up for air for question and answer after every one of those topics? So let's see if we can get the technology to work, and I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see a screen that says Ballot Integrity Initiative? All right, fantastic. Technology is great when it works. So, and my name is Greg Woodhams, and I am a member of the Observer Corps. And for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about our ballot integrity initiative. And it's going to be a little bit like watching a movie backwards, because I'm going to give you the credits first, and then I'm going to give you a spoiler with the conclusion. So first, but okay, so here's my spoiler. There's 3 big takeaways. One is confidence. The other one that you need to focus on is know the facts. And the last one that we want you to do is to share the facts. So here we go to the credits. Thank you so much to the social media communications media team. This wouldn't have happened without Judy Ann Goldman, Katie Frankenbach, Pat Goodwin, Dave Mountjoy, Ashley Irie, and if I have left anybody out, my great apologies here. And of course, there was so much teamwork on the Observer Corps, so thank you to Joe Holt, Donna Hoke. Joe had the Jackson County Election Board. Donna had the Cass County Election Authority. Terry Lane and Brenda Allison worked with Platte County, and Patty Evans and Tommy Sexton did the Clay County Election Board. I handled the Kansas City Election Board. So here is the one word that this all boils down to, and it's confidence. And I arrived at this word when I asked our ballot integrity subcommittee, what should I be talking about when I talk on Saturday? And Tommy Sexton said, our story should be about sharing the confidence that we've gained in the course of this study. So we want to share this confidence. And I heard that word a lot. I heard it in a radio interview in which Janet Milkovich, who's the president of the League of Women Voters, Johnson County, she cited what the League of Women Voters United States says. And this, I'm going to read it because I think it is so important. Election security is about voter confidence and participation. And then lastly, when I was watching the Kansas City Election Board being interviewed on television, I was there. Sean Kiefer, who's the director, he said, well, this is all about giving the public every bit of confidence that we can give them. So where do we get that confidence from? It's from knowing the facts. And what we wanted to do with our work is we wanted to present the voter with the necessary information to give confidence that their ballot was secured. And we believe that the voter, once the voter is armed with the facts, they can arrive at our conclusion. Okay, let's see. So this all came from the Observer Corps work, again, with the 5 election boards that serve voters in our area. So let's go to the facts. Fact number 1. And this one is your voting equipment is not connected to the internet. And voting machines are not connected to the internet. Vote counting machines aren't connected to the internet. And so they cannot be hacked from the internet. Fact number 2. Paper ballots are used to determine election results, but it's not just determining election results. They also create an audit trail. So when there's any question or when there's an audit afterwards, that paper ballot is there. And the other thing is a paper ballot can't be hacked. And this is probably one of the most robust parts of the ballot integrity part. Number 3, bipartisan teams monitor the equipment. And there's a chain of custody, and there's bipartisan supervision about the movement of ballots, there's bipartisan supervision about the movement of machines. There's also checklists that ensure that state mandated procedures follow. So that's something else that helps too. Number 4, the public testing of voting machines. They're tested before and they're tested afterward. So the authorities will always know if there's ever been an issue. And these tests are done by bipartisan teams. Number 5, post-election audits verify the integrity of vote counts. And this is important too. This is where the paper ballot comes back in, because what they do is they'll take a random sample and they will do a hand count of the paper ballots. And this all happens before certification. And this is done in accordance with Missouri law. So those are the 5 facts. But the biggest thing I happen to be challenged on these points by somebody who's fairly detail oriented, and I ultimately came to the conclusion that it's not just one of these facts that matters, but it's the totality. It's all 5 of these things put together, and all 5 of them put on top of the idea that there are more than 100 election jurisdictions in Missouri. So it's very difficult for, this ensures that you've got the confidence in the integrity of your ballot. Okay, so let's talk about how did we find the facts? Because I'm telling you, hey, here's the facts. And these facts should give you confidence, but how did we get there? Did we just kind of rip them off of a report? And the answer is no, we did a lot of work to get there. And we got them by interviewing the election boards. And we interviewed the election boards with 23 common questions. And those 23 common questions had to do with ballots, they had to do with equipment, they had to do with the chain of custody, they had to do with audits. Bottom line, if it had anything to do with a ballot, we asked them about it. And so this is what these common interview questions look like, all 23 of them. And the other thing is, when we compose these lists, we work together as a team. We said, okay, what are the questions that we're going to ask all of them? And then some of them were asked in person, and then some of the election boards said, hey, just give us the questions and we'll return them. And in general, the election boards were actually very welcoming to us. In a lot of cases, they give us a lot more detail than we would have imagined. So this was a real big help here too. The other thing is, in order to ask those questions, you had to be educated. And we had in the Observer Corps the benefit of what I'll call foundational knowledge. We had good relationships with the Jackson County Election Board, and we had good relationships with the Kansas City Election Board. And we had already learned a lot by attending either the audits or by attending the testing of voting equipment. And so here, for example, this is Joe Holt's report that she did back in April. Here's a picture of Joe taking a look at how that particular test was being conducted. But that really gave us a real good head start. And then we also did a lot of our own research. And for example, one excellent source for us that really helped us a lot, that pointed us in a lot of good directions, was a League of Women Voters of Colorado election security study and the study material there. Other really fantastic reports like this one called, I love the title of this one, Zero Trust, How to Secure American Elections When the Losers Won't Accept They Lost. And that is our world today. So I mentioned we had this foundation with the Kansas City Election Board and the Jackson County Election Board, but we also applied those learnings in new jurisdictions, and we built new relationships, and new relationships in Cass County, Platte County, and Clay County. And again, anytime either, let's say, Donna or Terry Lane has gone back either to Cass County or Platte County, in one particular case, when Terry went back to equipment testing at Platte County, the people in Platte County waved at her from across the room and saying, hey, Terry, great to see you. So we're very much welcome there. Okay, so let's talk about getting the word out. Okay, so we've done our work. We did it all the study. We got educated, we came to our conclusion, we came out with these facts, and now we want to get the word out to the public so that the public and the voter can have confidence. Okay, so but why are we doing it? Well, why get the word out? Okay, and here's the reason: an uninformed public is susceptible to misinformation. And if here's your new vocabulary word of the day, and it's pre-bunking. And pre-bunking is informing the public before they are exposed to misinformation. In other words, if you get to them before they have the misinformation, then they will have a filter and to be able to say, their meter, their baloney meter will go off. Okay, we're being recorded, so I gotta say baloney meter. So and a lot of this actually was learned recently. So this is a fairly new word here. And actually, there's a Brennan Center study on this that came out just this month. Okay, so here's a very important takeaway on this whole pre-bunking thing, is that, and I'll read this verbatim: a misunderstanding of election officials' jobs and election processes allows disinformers to misinform. Here's another one. A lack of significant social media presence of official voices with established trust permits disinformers to take residents as authoritative voices and to spread disinformation. So this is, the punchline here is we cannot allow social media to be owned by disinformers. And so this gets us to the role of the League of Women Voters. We have a respected, nonpartisan brand. We have a role to play in pre-bunking, and we have a role to play in fighting in disinformation. And so you have a role to play in pre-bunking and in fighting disinformation. So you can do that by knowing the facts and sharing the facts. So let's go to part one of getting the word out. Again, thanks again to the media team on this. But our website now has a page on ballot integrity. So if you ever want to find this stuff, this is it. Okay, this is all the stuff from Know the Facts. Here are your 5 facts. But here's the stuff that is even jazzier. This is the social media Know the Facts campaign. We've got one of these for every one of the facts, and I'm going to let's cross your fingers. Let's see if we can get the technology to work. And here we go. There it is. So technology, I love it when it works, and I really love all of it that is out there. And let's see if I can get my page to come down. Okay, so now we get to part 2. And by design, when we were working on this, we said, okay, we want to get electronic media first, and then let's deal with print, because we can use what's on electronic media to go to print. So now what's in process is getting Know the Facts print media out into
Greg, are you speaking?
Thank you. I was just trying to find out if that was me
Yeah,
or
I think
everybody.
there's
Greg,
no-
I think we're having some technical. I think we can't hear you. You've suddenly gone, yep, it's you. Can you type in the chat? Yeah, we can't hear you, Greg. Type in the chat for us. Okay, I'm gonna suggest, Greg, that you I hate to have you jump off and jump back on, but we're not understanding you at all.
Could it be a headphone thing, Greg?
No, I think it's a
Connection.
I think it's a connection thing. So
Yeah.
what I would like to do, while he sort of resolves that, is I want to answer a question that Kelly had, and her question was, how do we talk about the league? How do we talk about the work of the league if we can't speak for the league? So what are some examples of what we can say? And that is a really good question. And I waited till the end to answer that question because it's relevant to all of the reports that we've had. It's relevant to what Greg is telling us about. So it's true that that the president is the spokesperson for the league, although there are exceptions to that, but the exceptions have to be approved by the executive board. So certainly when and there are some exceptions that are just permanent exceptions, like we allow the social media team to speak on behalf of the league through the social media channels, and that's just an ongoing thing. But we often have people who go on the radio and they are experts on something that I am not an expert on, like HB 1878, and so they will go on the radio and speak for the league. And so when they are representing the league, they actually go on and, this is Greg Woodhams from the League of Women Voters. But when we are out in the world and we are league members, but we are not speaking for the league. So the way to do that is to say, and Greg is back, so I'll finish up my answer and then we'll give him a chance to get his presentation back up and running. But so when we're out in the world, what we can say is, I'm a member of the league, and this is what I have learned from the league. So rather than stating a position and speaking on behalf of the league, we say, this is what I've learned from my experience in the league. And this is the information I've gotten. Here's where you can find more information about our positions at the league. Here's where you can find a recording. Here's where you can follow our social media. So, Margie, I'm gonna defer to Margie, who is one of our experts. If she's we can't see that, Becky, it's blurred. I'm sorry. But Margie, you're on. Do you have anything to add?
I think you've said it very well, Anne, as you do always.
Thank you.
And it's very important for all of us to understand that. So thank you for making that such an important item. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Kelly, for the question, because that's an excellent question, because we hear that over and over again, that only the president can speak for the league, but then we're supposed to be out there and ambassadors. So yeah, absolutely share all the knowledge that you get from being a league member, widely and often. And excellent. Thank you. All right. And Greg is back. So I am going to, he's sharing his screen, and I'm going to spotlight him again once I find him.
Okay.
And
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Great,
So
great.
yeah,
Okay.
we just,
Okay.
we just
I jinxed myself when I said technology works twice, and
you,
I was
did.
just
Yep.
being dumb. Being dumb. Okay.
Uh-oh. You jinxed yourself again. Oh no. We heard you for a few minutes, but now your camera's off and we can't hear you.
And it's garbled.
It is garbled. Is it possible that sharing your screen is not doing right by us?
It didn't happen until after the video.
Yeah, it didn't happen until, that's true. That's true.
Can you hear me now?
We can, you're delayed.
You can hear me.
Yes.
Everybody can hear me. Okay, okay. All right. My great apologies here. So anyway, I'm just gonna wing it. I don't think I can hear you, but here is, okay. Is that okay, the bottom line here is that you should look for us to have information on efforts for us to be able to get that print media out. Okay. And so anyway, I'll stop right here and allow time for Q&A here.
Great. So I think if you will stop sharing your screen, that might be part of what's. Will stop sharing your screen, that might be part of what's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be it. Okay.
Okay, great. So okay, great.
All right.
So
So anyway, questions on this ballot integrity project? Okay, there's no questions on that.
we've got a couple. Kelly,
let me
how's
talk
your-
a little bit. Go ahead.
We've got a couple. Kelly has her hand up, and so does Donna. Hand up, and so does Donna. And we have quite a delay with yours. And we have quite a delay with yours, Greg.
Okay. Okay, so I'm listening. I'm listening for the question.
Kelly? You're on mute, Kelly. Can you unmute?
Thank you. I missed, are those 5 facts specific to Missouri or are those national facts?
Uh-oh, I think we lost him altogether. And I can't answer that question. Is there anybody else who was on the ballot integrity team who could answer that question? If you want to unmute and answer.
I would say the specifics are Missouri, because there are other things, but they are not hooked to the internet nationwide. So, I mean, that the top security guy for the 2020 election said it was the most secure election in the history. So there's just a lot of reaching out and providing false information and people who don't believe it no matter what. I wanted to clarify when we say Cass County Election Authority, Cass County has an elected county clerk, so it offers a little bit of different presence. They don't have directors, they don't have the large number of precincts and voting sites, but they still comply with the bipartisan teams when they go out and do absentee ballot at a hospital or a nursing home. They still had that team come in and observe, although it was the deputy clerks who actually, and the election authority that provides the system, who actually tested the equipment and et cetera. But you really came away feeling very confident that we are seeing false ready. When they talk about this fraud in the elections, it's just false. I'll
Thank
lower
you.
my hand.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So I think the short answer is the research was done in Missouri, but it's true for much of what they found is true for the whole United States. Um, Other questions? You want to raise your hand?
Becky
Okay, I
has her
know.
hand.
Okay, thank you. Becky? Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Hi, I realize this is kind of jumping ahead, but I just wanted to know if there's a social media campaign underway to make sure we get this message out, maybe even more than once. Because I would love to share that and post it on my Twitter and my Facebook. I just don't do all the social media because I don't have time, but I would love to magnify that message, and excellent presentation, Greg.
Yeah, Judy Ann, do you guys, can you address that question?
I do. Yeah, I can.
I thought you did.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Becky, for that question. We have all the points of that campaign on all of our platforms on social media, especially Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Putting them up on LinkedIn as well, getting them all up on YouTube. Those posts should be on our YouTube channel as well and website. And a huge shout out to Ashley Irie, our summer intern and now new member, who actually created each of those posts with the help of the committee and their messages. So big shout out to her for that impactful social promo. So please go to any of your channels, particularly again right now on Instagram, on Facebook. You'll find all the posts, and on Twitter we'll be, yes, definitely reposting those, Becky. That's important messages, and wanting to get that out as much as possible. I love the idea of the authority of our social media channels. And so it's very powerful to counteract the false messaging that's out there. So thanks a lot. And let me know if, you have any questions about that. I'll post some links to those so you can go right to them and like them and share them, get that word out. Thanks again.
Thank you, Judy Ann. And Judy Ann, would you mind texting Greg the call-in number? His internet is down, and so if you don't mind. But in the meantime, yeah. So in the meantime, I am going to talk just a tiny bit about HB 1878. As you may know, this is the bill that passed the Congress and was signed by the governor at the end of the session this year, and that has had a huge impact on our work. And we've talked a little bit about how we will be doing training now. So the bill goes into effect August 28th. Do not fill out anything now. We'll let you know when you can fill out paperwork and how that will work, because because of course they are not going to update the website until August 28th. And we don't know if that'll happen at midnight or when exactly that will be available to us. So don't fill anything out. We'll let you know. The leaders will go to this training on September 1st. We'll have much more information about the voter registration piece of that. But I want to talk a little bit about some other parts of that law. And one of the other parts of that law is that the Secretary of State in the past did not have the ability to ask for audits. Audits of voters were done at the local level. So what that means is when you audit the voter, when you audit your polls, or I'm sorry, your rolls, then you take people off the rolls who maybe haven't been active or whatever the criteria is. So in the past, that's been done at the local level. Well, part of this law is that now the Secretary of State can request audits. So what does that mean? Well, that means that maybe it's going to be partisan, maybe not. We don't know. The criteria is going to change. That means we're vulnerable. So in the past, we could take it for granted that once we registered to vote, we could go and vote. Now we have to more actively protect our right to vote, and we need to let everybody know that that's the case. So we have to encourage people to check their registration regularly. Check the registration before every single election and make sure that you are registered. Make sure you haven't been removed from the rolls. I also, as a matter of protection, am voting in every single election. I've generally done that, but sometimes an April election would slip by and I'd say, not anymore. I am voting in every single election because that's one way we can protect our registration. Another thing that we're encouraging people to do is one of the carrots that they gave us as part of this mostly awful package of new rules. But one of the carrots they gave us is that there is a 2-week window where we can do no excuse early absentee voting. And so we are encouraging everyone to go and do that because we think, particularly this November, with all these new rules, all this confusion, that the polls themselves are going to be a bit of a hot mess. And so let's take ourselves out of that equation, give our poor election workers less to worry about, and let's go and do our voting early and encourage everyone we know to do that. And the other reason we want to do that is because if there is a problem, we have a little bit of time to solve it. So maybe you are not on the rolls. Maybe they have you at a different address. You need to update your address. There's whatever issue is happening. You've got a little bit of time to solve that problem. So those are two parts of the bill that we can kind of talk about now. As I said, we will talk about the voter registration piece later. We'll get some training done. We'll get some training put together. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. And I see Greg is back. So Greg, I talked about the Secretary of State. I think you may have heard most of what I talked about, and voting early. What else do you want to talk about with that bill? Oh, you still got to unmute though. Still muted.
There we go. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so I'm going to do this all from memory. One is, I think you've got most on the Secretary of State. Students are vulnerable, and I think Becky did that. We also need to ask ourselves what our strategy is going to be with seniors, because their documentation, they may have been able to vote before with expired documentation. They can no longer vote with expired documentation. And then the other thing, Anne hit it right on the head. The Secretary of State before did not have the ability to call for audits. And he has cited Texas as an example of how he wants to do business. And of course, they did a major purge there. So we, like Ann said, we need to work with voters. And there's these postcards we're working on where in QR codes where voters can check in the field. And actually we did some beta testing on that. Kelly did some of that at an event at the Tony Aguirre Center a couple of weeks ago. So those are the two big things on 1878. And then lastly, on the early voting thing, in the presentation, there was a reference to, there's a lot of good things that early voting can do. And one of them is it takes a whole lot of stress off of election administration. Election administration is already under a lot of stress. This notion that, well, we're just going to have everybody do a provisional ballot, that's going to take up time. It's going to make the lines longer. If we can get voters to vote early, that will take stress off the election administrators.
So, Greg, will the early no excuses absentee voting take place only at the local board of election offices? Have they talked about that?
Yeah, it's only at the election authority. But even and you know, that's something that makes it more difficult. for people that don't have transportation. But let's put it this way. People that do have transportation and can avail themselves of transportation and they do vote early, that will actually make things easier for the people that don't, because it makes the lines shorter. And that's a big deal. And usually the people that are penalized when lines are long, think about it. You're probably, if you're working between two jobs, if you got a child at home, if you've got a child at home with a babysitter and the line's long, chances are a line that's too long is going to mean that you just plain won't be able to vote, because you either got to go to your next job, your next shift, or the babysitter is going to be gone in 10 minutes. We can help those people if we take some of the stress off the election system.
So it is 11:30, so I want to acknowledge that we are at the end of our time. But I also want to allow for some more questions. So if it's okay with everybody for us to run a little bit long, if we have a few more questions, there's also one more thing I think is important for us to talk about with this bill. So we're gonna run over a little bit, so I apologize. But the one other provision of this bill that we haven't mentioned is that the Secretary of State does not have an obligation to inform the public about changes in the law. That is actually part of this law. So that's another reason that we are changing our strategy about and being, you know, I love the word pre-bunking, that we are getting ahead of the message here, to get information out as quickly as we can, because the Secretary of State doesn't have an obligation to do that. All right, Rita, question.
So if I know that all of us, as fabulous as the league is, all of us do belong to other groups. And if there is a way for us to talk about this with those other groups, number one, if I would only want to use the materials that Greg has prepared. I'm not an expert on this and I wouldn't want to give any other information. So I would want to only use those. So number one, is that going to be available for us to either print off or whatever when we go to talk to other people, like book clubs and things like that? That's it. Thanks.
Yes, we are developing a repository for all of these printed materials so that they can be available to other organizations and to members to take. You're absolutely right. We don't want to try to remember it all ourselves, and they've done a great job of researching and attributing sources, and so yep, we will make that available to you guys. And I will also be reaching out to other organizations to provide those links and those materials to other organizations. So if there's an organization you think I should reach out to, please email me and let me know. Or actually, drop it in the suggestion box. That's better. Don't email it to me. Drop it in the suggestion box, then it's on the spreadsheet and I won't lose it. All right, Becky.
Hi, I would like to promote, and I'm sure we might be able to steal the HB 1878 summary that MOVPC put out, because there were just so many good points in a small space. You know, it's like half a page. The other thing I wanted to ask was, with the 2 weeks of no excuse early voting, is that now replacing the 6 weeks of absentee in person, which means you provide an excuse voting? Is that now replaced with the 2 weeks of early voting?
So are they eliminating 4 weeks of excuse absentee?
That's kind of what I'm asking, is now
Yeah.
it's just 2 weeks early instead of 6 weeks of absentee in person.
Do we know the answer to that, Greg?
No, I would need to go back to the bill on that,
Okay.
because I don't, well,
I just wonder, I can ask Lori, but I just thought it.
Yeah, I'll go back and take a look again at the bill and circle back to everybody on that.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we don't have the answer yet, but we'll find it and get back.
I'm a geek.
All right, Donna. Oh, sorry, Donna.
I would just say that the 2 weeks of early voting, or not early voting, it shouldn't be called early voting, 2 weeks of no excuse voting is
Absentee.
tied in to the fact that we have to do photo ID that is current, unexpired, has your current address and unexpired. If a lawsuit is filed and that is again defeated, as it has been 2 other times because it's considered a barrier, that 2 weeks will be eliminated. You're just fully 6 weeks of excuse absentee voting. So
That's true.
Yeah.
and I believe there will be lawsuits filed. I missed the Monday meeting, but I thought they were filing a lawsuit the week before. They waited till after the primary because they didn't want to confuse people. But they've really put it out as a carrot to allow us to have that stick that beats so many people out of voting because they don't have a current photo state issued ID. And so, although I do tell you, like county clerks like the idea of no excuse absentee voting better than early voting, because some of the early voting laws tells them that they have to have satellite sites and they have to work so many weekends and et cetera. So, but just FYI, there's going to be numerous lawsuits.
Yeah,
on this bill.
it's true. Kind of everything that we're telling you is what's current, and it could change. Any of it could change because there will be lawsuits, and we just don't know what'll happen. So we can only tell you what the information is at the moment. Stacy asked if there was going to be a pamphlet. There won't be a pamphlet as such. There will be flyers. So yes, there are flyers in development. So kind of semantics. They won't be threefold. There'll be one sheets, but yes, there will be. All right. Any other questions in the chat? Have I missed anything else? Any other questions?
And if we
Oh, go
have we
ahead.
talked about the presentation at the library?
We have not. So we have to do it really quickly.
Okay, so I'm going to go through that real fast. We are in a partnership with the Kansas Women Voters, in a partnership with the public library, and we are going to make a series of presentations with them, starting on September the 27th at Heltzberg, and another one October 3rd at the Plaza Cohen Room. And to use Mary Ann's parlance, 10 to 12 people won't hack it. We need people to come and talk and witness with us. And we will be talking about what is on the ballot this November, the ballot measures that are going to be in front of the voters. And there are three that are going to be controversial. One is the one related to a constitutional convention. The other one relates to the Kansas City Police Department, which is really, really, really hot. And the third relates to marijuana, which is going to probably draw a crowd also. So look forward to that. We really want to encourage attendance at those. And you can actually go into the League of Women Voters website and make a reservation. That'll go straight to the library on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's important for us to really show up so that we can strengthen this partnership with the library, so that going forward we continue to have this partnership, and also so that we can use this partnership, if it's successful, as a way to get other partnerships, to work with other, like Mid-Continent Library System and other big organizations, so that we can get voters informed. So Alice, you have a question, and Mary Ann, I know you have an announcement, so I may, if we have other questions, I'll let you make that announcement too, but Alice first.
No, I just want Mary Ann's announcement to be heard.
Oh, okay. Yep, I was absolutely. All right, any other questions about any of the voting, any of that law, anything? Okay, Mary, you're on mute. I'm sorry, Mary Lindsay has not yet, Mary Ann. Mary Lindsay has
I just
one last
wanted
question,
to
I think.
say, Greg said the first one at Hellsburg, but it's in the Hellsburg room at the Central Library.
Oh, yeah, thank you for the clarification. Yes, it's at the Central Library at the Hellsburg room. Yep. And we are actually going to be inviting other organizations, and so we may be getting a sense of where we're already going to have a crowd and where we're not. And so if you're only planning to go once, you might kind of watch for us to steer you in one direction or not the other. I am going to go multiple times, so I hope that others will go to lots of them as well. It's a great way to meet people from other parts of the city, the communities around the various library branches. So, all right, great. And then Mary Ann has an announcement to make about a fantastic program that's going on with the Women's Equality Coalition Council. What's the C stand for?
Right. How is my sound okay?
Yes.
Is my sound okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Because I've been having trouble hearing this whole time, actually. On August 25th, the Women's Equality Coalition, of which the League is a member, we will be presenting a celebration of Women's Equality Day, which is the 26th, that we'll be celebrating on Women's Equality Day Eve, August 25th at 6 o'clock at the Plaza Library. We'll be having a speaker. Her name is Dr. Emily Crosby from SUNY Geneseo, New York State University. And she's going to be speaking about the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which, as you all know, has suffered some blows recently. And she's going to be looking at it from the perspective of the activists on the ground in the civil rights movement, especially the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and the women in SNCC, which is actually the title of her next book. So she's going to be looking at the women who are often overlooked in the history of this passage of this particular very important act. And I think knowing the history of this will help us all understand in some better context the perspective of what's going on right now. So I urge you especially to attend with your bodies in the seats. There's just nothing like public performance and optics to make something really a successful event. So if you're on the edge and think, oh, I'll just listen to it virtually, which you can, it will be done virtually. But if you need a little push, a little nudge, I would nudge you to come down to the library, please.
Yeah, I would nudge you too. I'm gonna go, and I could be talked into going for a cocktail afterwards too. So just
yeah, and you're also going to be with you're going to be with the table there, right? Remember that.
I am going to be with the table. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, she's absolutely right. We need to go. And
Thank you very much.
I actually think that it would be a great way to pick up some tips on how to do on the ground organizing, because that we are back there now. This is where we are. And so we've got to start really, we got to get on the streets. We've got to start doing all this stuff. So yeah, thank you very much, Mary Ann, for telling us all about that. Thank you. All right, Donna, you one last
What was
thing,
the
and then we gotta
time?
say-
What was the time?
Oh, what time is that program, Alice? 6. They say 6 o'clock. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you. 6 o'clock.
RSVP online now. We want real people there.
Yes. So RSVP. There's something about there's the link in the most recent e-voter. So you can find that link in the most recent e-voter, and it will be in the next e-voter too, I'm sure. But RSVP before the next one. So. All right, we have to quit. I would love to stay here all day, but my dogs would have to be jumping around with their arms with their little legs crossed, so we better quit. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and thank you so much to all of our presenters for letting us know what's going on, and thank you for all of our new people for coming. Thank you for our tech hosts, and for all the work that everybody does. It's so hard right now, but we are making a difference. We are really making a difference, and it matters. So thank you for coming, and I will see you all. I'd say next month, but I know I'll see pretty much everybody sometime before then. So thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. Stay cool.